Hi, guys, and welcome to the Women's Health Summit, where you're gaining clarity so you can lead with confidence and finally turn that passion into profit. I'm Laura Sherrill, a high-performance women's health coach and the founder of Balance Bombshells, and today I'm here with Monica Yates, who is a period and human brain expert. I'm so excited to introduce you to her because she focuses on the subconscious brain, our feminine energy, and the impact it has on our body. So, Monica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
So I'd love to know what made you get started in your business and how did you get started?
Okay. So the main thing that made me, it all happened very naturally. If someone told me when I was in year 12, oh, you're going to talk about periods and sex and feminine energy, I would have been like, that's disgusting. So it happened very organically. And long story short, basically, I used to hate being a woman. I hated having my period. I thought I really did have the belief that being a woman was we got the bad end of the stick and it was better being a man. And now I'm the opposite. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not a man. Being a woman's fucking awesome. So it kind of started because I had really terrible periods, very, very heavy. They started to get quite painful. And this is very, very long story short. And basically I went on the pill, came off the pill, lost my period for 18 months. I couldn't get it back. And then, you don't have a period on the pill. So I didn't have it whilst on the pill, obviously. And then it didn't come back up when I went off the pill. And then I had a really bad ski accident. So I got my period back for 3 months, had a really bad ski accident, and I lost it again. And basically through that time, it became really apparent to me the effects that our subconscious brain has on our period and has on our cycle. So I kind of started dabbling. I was very interested already in neuroscience. So I started dabbling a lot more into the subconscious brain and how that's connected to our ovaries and how if you have all these beliefs about it's bad to be a woman and whatnot, of course, then you're not going to get your cycle or your cycle's going to, you're going to have really bad PMS, X, Y, and Z. And I started seeing in a lot of my clients that I was doing at the time of there was a direct correlation between those women that had either missing periods or really shitty periods. They had a very bad relationship with feminine energy. And so I started doing a lot more of that stuff for myself firstly. And I healed all of that, all the wounding around me being way more in my masculine and thinking the feminine was weak and all that jazz. And then my life just got so fucking good. I can honestly say that being in your feminine, I don't even have words to describe how much better your life is when you are in alignment. And when I say in alignment, it's just your core, majority of women, 90% of us have a feminine core. And the question that I will often ask when people are how do I know if I have a feminine core is, at the end of the day, deep, deep, deep down, do you just want a man to fucking hug you and take you and protect you? And if you're yes, yeah, right. I'm fuck yeah, every day. I'm all the time, every day.
Own it.
Yeah, anyway, and so that's the sign that you have a feminine core. So majority of us have that. And when you stop fighting against your core, you will get rid of that adrenal fatigue, the exhaustion, the hormonal issues, the skin issues, the body image issues, the issues with sex, all that stuff will just dissipate and your life will become so fucking easy. That's the way to kind of describe it. Shit gets really easy when you're in your feminine and everything seems fun and you get pleasure out of the sun on your skin, mint in your fucking water, making your breakfast. You just get so much pleasure out of being really embodied in your feminine energy and sensuality. And it's crazy the amount of clients that I've now had where they've gone to every doctor, every naturopath under the sun, and no one can get their period back. And this is multiple times I've had clients that have come to me with that, and I'm their last resort. Literally, one session, period comes back after 5 years. I've had 2 girls, one was 5, one was 4. Others were months with no period, and it's a very, very common thing. Now it's to the point where I'm oh yeah, I'm not surprised, super normal. And it just continues to prove to me holy fuck, our subconscious brain has such a big role in our energy, has such a big role in our cycles and in our PMS and all that jazz. So that's kind of what I do.
I love it. So I had stumbled upon your work and I'm obsessed with the feminine masculine energy. So I was really excited to talk to you because I'll tell women all the time, so I work a lot with women who are very high performing, they're very active, they're very ambitious in their career. which of course we all are, like, totally understand. But the only way I was able to keep my energy in alignment, the happiness, no PMS, no period problems, was balancing the masculine and feminine energy. Like, that was the last piece of the puzzle for me.
Yeah.
It probably should have been the first, but it was the last like kicker. And so I was just so excited because I really think there needs to be more voices really shining light on the feminine energy, our subconscious brain, like all the things we pick up as children, and like how we're conditioned as women to be in society. And we basically know intuitively how to be connected to that part of ourselves, but we're conditioned to do like the exact opposite, to compete, to basically operate like a man, where like think of when you're in a business meeting or you're like collectively with other people, we know how to like feel the energy in the room. We know how to be like, okay, this person's a bit more aggressive. Here's how I can like respond with my energy. Like we already know how to do that.
Yeah.
But no one ever gives us permission. So I was just so excited that like you're out there teaching women and giving women permission.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit of like the neuroscience and the subconscious brain and like how that connects with the ovaries, and just, I think women might be really interested in learning that part.
Yeah. A little overview to get to the point straight away with that is basically so when you're on the pill, for example, the pill, it cuts the communication between your brain and your ovaries. And that's like fucked. I'm like, whoa, a drug cuts a connection in your body, but that's what happens. So your subconscious basically talks to your ovaries. And that's why, women that get really stressed or they're in like a fight or flight, their period will stop, their cycle will stop. And it's not because anything's wrong with them. It's actually their biology is working, is what it's doing. It's a good thing. It's a protective mechanism. But often that will happen not in the scenario where something is wrong, if that makes sense. Like, it will happen when like work's really stressful and whatnot, and women will like fuck their cycles, and it's just because their body doesn't know, oh, it's just work. It still thinks we're running from a saber-toothed tiger.
Correct.
So basically your subconscious brain communicates to your ovaries, and it's going to communicate stress, happiness, love, X, Y, and Z. And so if your subconscious your subconscious affects every cell in your body. So if your subconscious is saying to your ovaries and to your body, like basically, I hate being a woman is bad, I'm scared about my period, because a lot of women have mums that are like, well, I had endometriosis, so I had painful periods, so you'll get them too. Like, having a period's shit. So then you take on that belief, and then of course you get that, obviously, because you just placebo it and you make it in your body. So like, I even tell my clients sometimes when they're like, how do I sync my cycle to the moon? I'm like, just placebo it. Just tell your body.
Yeah, it'll
like,
naturally do it.
I'm ovulating. And then after a few cycles, like you'll sync up to whatever you want. So yeah, like people basically like, their beliefs become their reality. And so if they're believing that being a woman's bad, feminine energy is yuck, like being in the feminine's weak, why the fuck would you have an amazing period or like an amazing relationship with the most feminine part of you, your cycle? So basically what happens is then your subconscious starts to communicate like even like danger. So a lot of clients will come to me with like quite a lot of childhood trauma. And trauma is like my jam. I love it the most. And if they're subconscious and they do it, like it's very, very, very subconscious, it can communicate to your ovaries, like danger about mum and dad, like their whole neurological system can just be like danger from like fucking them being born or when they were 2 years old. And if they haven't rewired that, it's going to keep playing out. And so that can even affect their cycle. So like, it's very common for ladies to come to me with like, periods, and then we do the trauma work, and then their period becomes fucking amazing. And it's because we finally got rid of that like danger response, that fight or flight response. It was constantly through their body. So even if you've got like trauma or you've got like relationship issues that are like quite subconscious, or you had like any sort of sexual trauma in the past or shitty relationships in the past, even like sisterhood wounding, like that will affect your cycle because it affects your subconscious, and your subconscious is communicating that to your whole body, which will obviously then affect your womb and your cycle and all that jazz as well. And as women, we hold so much emotion in our cervix, and that's going to obviously also affect everything down there, including your ovaries, your cycle, all that jazz, your period. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm like so geeking out right now because I'm obsessed with like the subconscious mind too, and just how much we have to not only improve our mindset, but the rewiring and the restructuring of the subconscious and limiting beliefs that we have. Especially like, I've seen a lot of the emotions that come up from women is a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of not enoughness or like a sense of lack, which comes out in their cycle. And I think it's such an empowering time right now to be a woman, because I feel like we're in this awakening period where we're just starting to understand the power of our cycle. And like, I'm the same as you. Like, I'm so excited to be a woman now, because I find so much power in grounding emotions in our cycle and how we're meant to ebb and flow. And it made so much sense. And I feel like our bodies intuitively want to do this. Like it's wired exactly how to do this. We just need people.
We haven't been taught it.
Yeah.
Like, even like if our mums, like obviously like when I have a daughter, like I will teach her it. So she'll know from like lucky her, or maybe unlucky, depends how you look at it.
She's like, oh, my mom's always talking about my period. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like so I had a very good relationship. I still have a good relationship with my mum, and she was quite open to talk about periods, but her mum didn't teach her about the different phases of her cycle and how amazing it is to like, you know, honor your period, all that jazz. Like there was no shame around periods, but I had shame around it because in society there was shame around it. Right. So that's where I picked it up from. But mum was pretty open about it. But she didn't understand like different like phases of your cycle, or how to exercise differently, or how to eat differently. And so it's just beautiful for us to be able to learn it, so that we can then for the next generation, like our daughters that come through, and even our sons that come through, we make it really normal. It's just like when you go to the gym, you wouldn't do leg day every day. You would mix it up and whatnot. It's kind of the same shit, just for our cycles.
Yeah. And it actually is very intuitive. Like I noticed as I was learning like the food structure, I do very much intuitive eating now, which is so freeing. And I think everybody should do. The
best thing ever.
Like your body knows what you want. So like as my period would start, like I could, you know, you always know when it's about to start happening. And I'm like, oh, I should do a salad. Because I'm like, oh, it's easy. I have this stuff in the fridge, no problem. And I would think about it and I was like, I feel like physically nauseous thinking about eating a salad. And I'm like, oh, that's a sign it's time for me to start eating more warming foods and really nourish that grounding piece of me right now that needs more blood flow. And we need that through warm food. So like, it's just so fascinating how we know it. We just don't, most people in general, I think men and women, don't listen to their like intuition.
We're not taught how to listen to it. And like, it's the best thing once you strengthen your intuitive muscle, because like, you don't have to think like really hard about things. It's like intuition guides you. I mean, it comes down to everything, like the intuitive eating. Once you nail that, it's so fucking freeing. Once you've like healed your relationship with money, so fucking freeing. Healed your relationship with the feminine, freeing. Sex, freeing. Men, freeing. Like once you've just healed all those parts of yourselves, like your life will just feel like so fucking, it'll just feel liberating. It's everything becomes easy and free because you're not worried in your head about different things.
So in my work, I've noticed my husband ends up talking about all this stuff with his friends. So like he literally goes on guys' night and they start talking about it, which I think is amazing because not only are women in an awakening,
attractive.
Men are also like, oh, now I understand how I can give men want to give us what we want. We just have to articulate and tell them. And like, I'll tell my husband every time I'm shifting phases, I'm like, hey, here's how I'm going to feel this week. Here's what I want. Go out to guys' night, like whatever, or just like hold my hand when we're like sitting and watching TV, like just little things. But I have to ask him because like they don't know, and we change so much.
They can't keep up. Poor dudes.
Yeah, of course they can't keep up. So it really is up to us to understand ourselves.
It
so we can communicate that. But he'll look at me. It's been like 4 years now, and he'll look at me and just being like, thank you for telling me. Like, I just like that I don't have to guess. I like that I know I can do it.
Men hate the guessing game. Do you know how many times I will literally say to my clients, write a list of all of your turn-ons and hand it to your boyfriend, and he will be the most grateful man, and then go and like boast about you to all of his friends.
Loves it.
Because he's like, I don't have to guess. She's told me what she wants.
Whenever,
amazing.
I don't know if this happens to you, but when I go to parties, like, men will ask what I do. So I'm like, I teach women's health, I can help them get rid of like PMS and period problems. And, and they're like, can you talk to my wife?
Oh, all the time. I have Uber drivers asking me that. One time I had an Uber driver that literally phoned up her daughter, and he was like, can you please talk to my daughter whilst I'm going to the airport? And I was like, okay.
Yeah. You're like, can I, instead of paying for this ride, can that be
Yeah,
my
can I
charge for
give
my
advice?
time?
I know, I kind of
Yeah.
felt a little bit like, but I was like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Cause you're like,
Um,
I get paid to do this. So like
yeah,
people
I know.
forget like,
But and a lot of men also say to me, is it PMS normal? Or like, yeah, or like, you can, like you said, you can actually get rid of that. Like,
right,
it's not normal. I'm like, it's not normal. Like,
right.
if she's having that, it's not normal. She needs to come see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a game night a few weeks ago and like so I always tell women too, like, don't match your health goals and do the same type of challenges with your partner or your husband,
Oh yeah.
because like our bodies are just not designed the
Yeah.
same.
Correct.
So him and his wife were doing intermittent fasting, and they know,
Oh
like,
God.
I study all this stuff. And so he's like, I could tell he was teeing it up for very specific parts. So he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, hey, Laura, like, what's your take on intermittent fasting for women? And so I told him, I was like, women shouldn't do it every day. They should do it on
Yeah.
like a smaller scale. If they're going to really get into it every other day, like their bodies
Correct.
start shutting down. And he's like, and so his wife is sitting there and she's like, oh, that's probably why my period was delayed. And I was like, yeah,
Oh
like your
my,
body's under
yeah.
stress. So then he
Yeah.
goes, they're both sitting there and at least like we're open enough to talk about this. And he's
Yeah.
like, does it cause women to be like a little bit more moody? And so I was like,
You're
yeah,
like,
for like
yeah.
ape shit moody. And he's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, yeah, I was like, just try every other day. Maybe don't try and do the 16-hour fast, shoot for 20.
No.
Like, and it's just, I know there's so many people that advocate for it, but it's,
Intermittent fasting works well on men, but
yeah,
not like I've had a lot of clients where they did intermittent fasting and they got results at first, and then they started plateauing, going backwards.
yes,
I'm like, yeah, don't do it.
correct.
Like,
Started gaining weight, their cycles off, mood.
yeah, because it
Oh my
fucks
gosh.
their thyroid out. Like,
Yeah.
just I did a whole podcast episode on it. I can't remember what number it was, but about like keto versus paleo, and then like, is it good? And I did like one on exercise in the different phases of your cycle. And like, I'm the same with HIIT. Like, you should not be doing like death sentence HIIT classes.
Right.
Like, I only do like HIIT-ish when I'm in my follicular phase and ovulation. But the HIIT that I do is, my friend has an online Pilates studio, and like that HIIT is like not F45 vibes HIIT.
Right.
It's like, it's just a little bit more intense than doing like a slow burn Pilates class, which is great.
Right. And I definitely do the same thing where I'll start tailoring off to the times where I can just tell my body can't get there.
Yeah.
And like, I no longer do like spin classes, like
Yeah.
really, because like it's 45 minutes of very high intensity. And
Yeah.
like, I went once during my period while I was learning the phases.
Oh
Like,
God.
I was like, well, it wasn't even the workout. I could tell I needed to modify, but it was
Yeah.
the strobe lights and the sound. I was like, oh, I'm hypersensitive of extra stimuli right now, and it's too much, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But I think the powerful thing too, and I don't know if this happens with your clients, is once you regulate your body and you're in tune with the feminine energy, my period comes and like, not only is it not a big deal, but sometimes I'm like, am I ovulating because my energy is through the roof and I'm just so excited to do life.
So yeah, what do you bleed with the full moon or the new moon?
I sync up with the moon. So new moon is when I have my
So
period.
you bleed on the new moon. So you're gonna bleed like maybe either now or in 2 days' time.
It's been a little off because my husband and I actually had a miscarriage like 2 months ago. So I'm like,
Okay.
once we miscarried, I was on the exact opposite spectrum. So it's starting to like re-regulate.
Shift over. Okay.
Yeah. So basically in a week.
Traditionally speaking, like, so I bleed on the full moon, and that's the red moon cycle. And with that cycle, traditionally that's for like all the healers and like the business women basically.
Okay.
So hence I obviously bleed on that.
Yeah.
And then if you bleed on the new moon, it's like motherhood. So like, you're generally more like in that nurturing phase of your life. And typically, like, this is just generalization, but if you bleed on the full moon, you'll have a lot of energy around your period. So I actually get pretty energized on my period. The other time that I won't is if I've had a hectic month and I actually need to like have a week off kind of thing. Then my period's just like, it allows me to like have that kind of week more to myself. But yeah, I get pretty energized on my period. I won't like kill myself with exercise, but I'm like pretty like on a week when I have my period. So it can be kind of exhausting because it means that I'm on for like 3 weeks out of the month instead of 2. Right. So anyway.
But that's good to know too, because like before we got pregnant, I was synced up very much to having my period on the new moon and ovulating on the full moon. And then afterwards it was like the exact opposite. So, but I can feel it starting to re-regulate back to that cycle.
That's great.
So it's just kind of interesting of how like the universe even just syncs up to where you are in your life. Yeah, I just find it fascinating.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah. And it's just so fun to have these conversations too, because sometimes I'll talk with my friends and like I can talk about it for hours and they're just like,
oh yeah,
cool. Like basically just tell me what I need to do to solve my problem, but they're not as spiritual. So like,
okay,
that's tough. So, but in my online world, I get to connect with people like you. So
yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I'm obsessed.
Yeah. So when you're working with clients, do you have like specific things that they have to start with first to start doing like the reprogramming? I'm just trying to like, when you first start working with women, like what do you start helping them with right away?
So generally speaking, I mean, obviously, like if they're eating a shit diet, I'm gonna be like, well, let's fucking clean that up. But most women that have come to me, they've done those basic things. Most women have listened to my podcast, so they know cut out sugar, cut out like vegetable oil, cut out a fuck ton of dairy, like just basically eat healthy. And once they've come to me, they've done all those basic level things and they're like, it's still not working. So I was saying this to the girls doing my certification last night, because I asked if there was like a process. I don't necessarily have like a program that I follow for clients. I'm very intuitive. So I do it very intuitively. But typically what will happen is a client will come to me and I'll be able to pick up straight away what their problems are. And I'll always kind of do childhood wounding stuff first. So like parent wounds, society wounds, childhood stuff, and do a lot of like energy clearing and, like reprogramming of your brain, like some NLP stuff, like some womb clearing, like timeline regression, like a lot of I love doing like anger release and like energetic release practices with my clients, because I just like, I'm a very like fiery person, and like anger just gets my blood like boiling in a good way of like, it just fucking like jazzes me up. And I do a lot of like heavy breath work practices. So a lot of release stuff. And then my kind of method is like, I release people. Well, I don't release it. I guide them for them to release it. I help people release all their crap. And then once their plate is kind of clean, like this, not plate, slate is clean, then I build up from there. So we've done that inner work where we've done all that clearing stuff and whatnot, and got rid of all like the bad thoughts in their head and X, Y, and Z, and like the blocks in their body energetically. And then once we've done that, then I kind of go upwards with pleasure, feminine energy, sensuality, understanding their cycle, like manifestation stuff, a lot of like wealth frequency upgrades, like a lot of money stuff. And we kind of just build from there, basically, is how I do it.
I love that, because most people will start with certainly like the basics with food and like recognizing what their diet's like, sleep, all that stuff. But I love that you take such an intuitive approach. And like, I feel like it's important too, as like a teacher, to be very intuitively connected with your clients or your students or whoever you want to them, because you can pick up on what they need. And like, I've seen a lot of people have like specific structures and programs, but it's like,
I've never done that. I don't like that. How boring. I would get so bored.
At what point can you like flow? Like our bodies are meant to be fluid, and like, especially the energy. I've been working with one client who has been way too structured. And so her period has been thrown off. And I'm like, what can you do? Just every day, ask yourself, what can I do today that's going to just be fun and enjoyable? So I was like, I think we need to break up some of that energy, because it's too tight. I love your work on anger too, because I think a lot of women carry
every woman
same anger, but we suppress
so much anger. Like I'm talking rage anger.
Yeah, for sure. I used to have PMDD. So you're talking to a girl who had like the worst PMS, and I worked with a naturopath. Well, I got rid of it myself, and then I went to a naturopath like a few weeks ago. And she's like, when you had PMDD, she's like, was it like rage based? And I was like, oh yeah. And it was just so suppressed from childhood that I didn't know how to work.
That's the thing. It's not like, it's not about your boyfriend being a dick. It's actually it's actually all this stuff from childhood, and we weren't allowed to express ourselves because anger is bad in society. And what I always say is anger isn't bad. Aggression is bad. Like you being aggressive towards a person, that's not a cool human thing to do. But you expressing anger in a healthy way is just like you expressing sadness. It's
Right.
so healthy. It's an emotion we all need to experience. And so many women, I would say all women, I would actually go as far to say all women that are in their masculine, this was me included, they have so much fucking rage and anger. And if they haven't released it, like, good luck being in your feminine. And I always say, you can do all the feminine things. You can do the dancing and you can do the baths and whatever other stuff you want to do. But like, that actually does fuck all if you haven't like gone in here and done the really, really, really deep inner work that's super uncomfortable. Because the way that I do my coaching is like, it's very intense in a good way. But it fucking works. Like, it blows my mind, and it's what helped me so much. And like, the physical body stuff has been like the game changers for my clients, not the, oh, let me like add 10 extra things on my to-do list that I have to do to be in my feminine today.
Right.
I'm like, no, fuck that. I don't even do that. I'm like, hell
Right.
no.
Tear
It's
the
about
to-do.
integration.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want people to be adding feminine things to their masculine to-do list. Yeah. That makes zero sense. It's more about integrating into your life, and how can you be, you know, doing your business, and how can you be doing life, but in a way that feels really good. It's all from feminine energy.
Do you have any advice for the women watching who want to like own a business, or maybe they're looking to like scale it? Yeah. How do you manage like a busy, hectic business, but staying in your feminine and really true to the work that you do?
Okay. So that's why I made one of my programs completely about like how to run a business in a feminine way. Like, it is so fucking important, because in the beginning I didn't, and I burnt myself out. Like, I actually got to a point where I was resenting my job, which is not good. And then once I did my business in my feminine, like, I work pretty much every day of the week. And I don't really get burnt out very often. And if I start to get burnt out, I can feel it, and then I'll just relax for a day, and then I'm good the next day. So for people, like, I would say one of the number one things is a lot of people go to business coaches, and I'm like, you need to be very careful about the business coach, because there are women out there that do business coaching in their feminine energy like me. But if you're going to just your average business coach, you don't want them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do not want, you don't want strategy. You hire somebody else for strategy. You don't do that shit. Like, that's for somebody else. And so it's really important that you're hiring someone that is very feminine in their business. And I want to say, it doesn't just look feminine, but it's very clear in the way their sales page is written for their program and everything, that they're teaching you not strategy, not how to sell, not how to, I mean, selling is all that stuff's important, and I teach it, but I teach it all in a feminine way. So on my website, I'm not like, I'm going to teach you your launch plan. I'm like, how can we be in our feminine energy whilst also launching your program? Like, there's a heavy focus on that. And I would say the benefits of that is I don't ever feel like, some people say to me, oh my God, I'm in a launch period, I'm so exhausted. I'm like, why? Like, why are you exhausted?
Right.
Like, it just should be like life as usual. I'm in a launch period, and like launch period, I'm like, I'm just the fucking same. So I would say that's really important. And I would also make sure that you have done the feminine healing work before you go into your business, because it will just carry through a lot more easily. The way I structure my business coaching program is we do all the feminine healing first and then the business stuff, because that works better. It becomes like very natural that way. And then I also, oops, sorry, my friend's just phoning me, cancel. Can you still see me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I also, I have a manager and like a customer service person. Obviously it takes a while to get to that state, but I would definitely say that as soon as you feel like you've got the ability to hire out. And one tip I would say with that as well is hire before you think you need them. So I hired my manager, not because I desperately needed her at the time, but because I was like, my next level self has a manager. So she does all my operations, all strategy, all business strategy, marketing plans, editorial calendars, PR stuff, like everything. I don't do any of that shit. I basically just like dance around and do my clients, and she does all that stuff. And then, and I really trust her. And then she relays things to me, and I'll get confused. I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like, as long as it feels good, then I'm like a yes to it. And that has worked really well. And she loves that. She doesn't like doing, like, she wouldn't want to do my job, for example, but she actually gets really jazzed about strategy and marketing and X, Y, and Z. So for her, it really works. And therefore she's in her feminine when she's doing it because it feels so easy to her. So yeah, making sure that you're playing to everybody's strengths is really important. And it definitely is important to have somebody on your team that like kind of holds the fort down, because if you're worried about controlling your business, it will be very exhausting for you. Because when I was trying to control my business, and I'll go through phases where like shit's really stressful and I'm like, does everyone have everything under control? And then if I'm worried they don't, I take it all on board.
Yeah.
And then I get like a headache for a week. This happened like the other week, because I'm like trying to keep everything in my head and be really in control and like have that and be that masculine leader, instead of being like, it's all under control, like everything's fine. So it is important that you've got somebody that you know is running kind of your business, so you don't have to worry about that.
I love that, because like I think it's hard, especially for the women who are coming into their business in the masculine, to basically let go of control, because we feel nobody can do it as good as I can. When in reality, like, just like you said, like your manager has those strengths. She loves it. She doesn't want to do the work that you do. And that is being a feminine leader, of recognizing everyone else's strengths. And you also being able to be okay with saying, I'm not as great at it as she is. Like, she's going to do it better. And I feel like that's so empowering, because like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are afraid to outsource because they like want that control. And then that's why
I will still say I'm terrible still. I'm learning at letting go of control and being like, she will do a better job than me. Like, that trust is like sometimes really hard in the beginning, because sometimes you're like, I'll just do a better job of it and whatnot. And I would say for that, it took time. But now, like, my manager, Shelby, she literally reads my mind. Like, she'll send me, like, a list of everything she did. And I'm like, oh, my God, how do you know to do that? It was on my list and I forgot to do it today. And she just, like, knows.
Yeah.
But that's taken, like, she's actually been really amazing from the beginning. But it took time to build. And she really knew my brand. And so that's really important. And then what was I going to say? I would also say as well, because everyone else has everything under control in my business, it allows me to always be in pleasure, and not always, but majority of the time, be in pleasure and fun and be in my feminine. And therefore I'm actually magnetic. So it helps my business to thrive. And I'm also being the example. Like, if I was, being all like, oh yeah, I teach feminine and I do all feminine stuff, but I was sitting at my desk all day slamming it, people would be like, is she? Because I know coaches that teach feminine embodiment and they're actually very masculine. Right. And like that to me is like lack of integrity, and that doesn't vibe for me. And so for my clients or prospective clients to see me on Instagram dancing half naked whilst I'm making my breakfast, that is like, people are like, I want to be that. Like, that's what's important. And I could only do that if I wasn't stressed about my business. And hence I need Shelby for that. And like, as a result of me having her, I can make more money because more people sign with me, because I'm really showing up as you. Like, I'm selling myself basically. Like, so it's my job to always be showing that I'm selling my life, kind of thing.
Right. And I think that's really powerful, because, like, I've connected with a lot of female entrepreneurs since starting, and like, I can even tell in their communication where they're at. So even if anyone's wondering, like, how do you figure out if someone's in their masculine or feminine, just read their communication of what they put out online, either their website, their Instagram is a great place to go, because you basically are inside their head. Like, whatever someone's writing, you're in their head. And if it feels tight, if it feels aggressive, it feels like in your face.
If it feels really planned out.
Yeah.
Like, if it's really, really planned, like, yes, it's important to plan shit out. But even yesterday, for example, Shelby was like, do you like this graphic for the Why Is My Coaching Different IGTV? And I was like, oh, I recorded a Sex is Painful one. Let's do that one instead. And we just we have an editorial calendar, but I'm always fucking changing it. Yeah. And that fluidity is really important because it's like, it's more magnetic. And like, even on my Instagram, there's no perfect flow. People like, I fucking am typo queen, because I'm not like reading every fucking thing and being really strict. I'm just like in the flow, type it out, send it out, like put it on my story. And it's just so in the moment. And that to me, like, I actually love that about my brand. I love that I'm very loose and I'm not really planned out and structured, that's my vibe, and people are buying me essentially. So it's important that I stay with my own like values and what I kind of enjoy.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful too, because like, especially being someone who's very spiritual, very tapped into the feminine energy, you understand that like by being too rigid or being too structured, either on your plan or what you're going to say or what you're going to do, you miss out on like a lot of those, I want to say like intuitive nudges or like pieces of you that need to come out, not necessarily for you, but for someone else listening. And it's what they needed to hear. And I feel like if we censor ourselves too much, we can't serve basically to the best of our ability.
Totally.
So I just have loved being able to just like flow back and forth with you, because like that's how I jive too. So I know you have a freebie for everyone. It's the Power Up Your Period. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's actually like a ton on my website. I've got a free meditation that's like a money and manifestation one. I've got my Power Up Your Period ebook, which goes through every phase of your cycle and what to be doing. I've got a dude's guide to period phases, so you can get that and give it to your husband, boyfriend, X, Y, and Z, and like they will appreciate it, trust me. And it's also, I've made it very brief, so it's fast for them to read.
Yes.
I also have on my website, I've also got on my Instagram, I've got a morning meditation that you can do, and also a surrendering exercise, which are both really good for this time with the pandemic and everything. The surrendering one is like, I've had amazing feedback, and even my clients, like I've made them do it and they're like bawling as they do it. It's just like a really nice releasing thing to get into your feminine. So I would go and do, there's plenty there. I would go and do all of them. And my podcast is a freebie and there's tons of information on there.
I love that. So I'm going to be leaving the link for everybody in the show notes so they can grab all of that stuff, because
Perfect.
I love how you take such a, not only like a mind, body, spiritual approach, but also very much like how can you incorporate it into your everyday life with your relationships, with your job, with just being present in your world. So I'm really excited to share that with everyone.
Yay. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.